Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name is Ivana, if you are new here, and I'm joined with a very special guest today. You might recognize her, but if you do not recognize her, this is U.S. Representative Terri Sewell from Alabama. Now, Representative Sewell is obviously supporting the tide today on this Monday, trying to get a little of her houndstooth in here. But, Representative, we have so much to talk about here today. I really appreciate you taking your time. I know that you're very busy in Washington.
Well, first let me just say, roll tide. I'm feeling the Bama fever here, and representing Alabama. But yes, I'm in DC because we are right now introducing articles of impeachment against the president for inciting the insurgency, and this um, it's a sad day. It's a sad week. It's a sad chapter in America's history. And, I think that, elected officials' words matter. And I think that actions have to have consequences. I was in the House chamber when the breach of security occurred, and I can't tell you how horrifying it was to not feel safe in your own space where you work every day, and to be in the nation's capital, the people's house, and to have it be stormed by a mob of violent folks screaming, hang Mike Pence, and looking for members of Congress, and having to put a tear gas mask on, was surreal and absolutely unacceptable. And it was important that we went on with the business of certifying the election after all of that took place, because we cannot be intimidated by such violence. And while everyone is condemning it now, it is imperative that such incitement of violence be answered, and people and some action has to be taken for those people who stormed the Capitol.
You say that actions matter, words matter. We know that prior to the protests on Wednesday, U.S. Representative Mo Brooks, also from Alabama, made a pretty fiery speech Wednesday morning and used some language that some people say that he is responsible for some of the actions that took place on Wednesday after that fiery speech. What do you think? What do you think about those comments about Representative Brooks? And also, what do you think? Do you think he's responsible? What should happen to Mo Brooks and other representatives who might have had a part in kind of stoking these flames?
I have to tell you, it's a sad. This is just such a sad chapter. We in Alabama's delegation have a history of civility, if not congeniality, with one another. And Alabama's delegation meeting once a month on the Senate side with our senior senators, and we've really prided ourselves on having a level of civility. So I was a bit hesitant, and have been hesitant, about speaking out against my fellow Alabama delegation members. But actions have consequences, and the words that Mo Brooks did fuel the flame, and the fact that he would not apologize is not only unacceptable to me, it's actually personally offensive as a fellow member of our delegation, to know that that someone I work with and have worked with on behalf of the state of Alabama would fuel those flames and incite that violence is deeply, deeply offensive. And I would think that any Alabamian that loves this country and respects our democracy would feel the same.
You and Senator Richard Shelby were the only two elected officials in DC from Alabama that did not object to those electoral college votes being counted. Were you surprised that the majority of the Alabama's elected officials did object?
After that assault on our Capitol, and after being in a undisclosed bunker location with other members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, all of us together, and experiencing that for 3 hours and emerging from that and seeing what was on television and just the proximity to the Capitol, the fact that a gunshot was the only thing that stopped them from rushing into the speaker's lobby was horrific. I cannot tell you that I close my eyes sometimes and I literally cannot get to sleep because those memories, those sounds are so implanted in my brain. I can't imagine that members of Congress would come back into our chamber and nevertheless continue to perpetrate the lie that somehow Joe Biden did not win this election. Look, I believe it's important that we better out all of these lies and conspiracy theories. The reality is that not one of the 60 lawsuits that were filed were upheld in any court. That the Attorney General Barr, Trump's own Attorney General, said that there was nothing worthy of investigating when it comes to voter fraud. It did not occur. We had a safe and fair election where President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris were duly elected by the American people. And for us to try to subvert our own will and what we want as elected officials over the will of the people of Arizona and Pennsylvania, was simply unacceptable. I expect more from my colleagues, and I know that the American people and the people of Alabama deserve better of our elected officials than what I have been witnessing from some of our colleagues. And to say otherwise, I would not be speaking the truth. And I think that it was deeply disappointing that only Senator Shelby and I voted to uphold and certify the Electoral College results.
Of the 5 people that are dead now following Wednesday's violence in the Capitol, one is from Alabama. He appeared to have suffered a heart attack outside of the Capitol. And we do know that there is at least one person that has been arrested from Alabama who was participating in the violence. I believe he was arrested with 11 Molotov cocktails that had a napalm-like substance, and he also had guns at that Capitol. What can you do to tell Alabamians that this election was not stolen? Because there are obviously a decent bit of Alabamians who are mad and who do feel strongly enough in support of President Trump, in support of this Stop the Steal slogan, that they are coming up to the Capitol. What can you do?
Well, I think that first we have to demand that this president is removed. He is a clear and present danger to this country. And so I am joining with 200 other members of Congress in filing articles of impeachment. I would actually have prayed and hoped that Republicans would go to this president like they did to Nixon and ask him to resign, that Pence and the cabinet would invoke the 25th Amendment. But the only thing that members of Congress can do on the House side is articles of impeachment. And I sadly joined with my colleagues in doing this because it's not just about Donald Trump. It's also about the precedent that we're setting for the future, that the actions, unacceptable rhetoric, inflammatory comments and remarks, that incite violence, that you now condemn, but were complicit in helping to bring about, is absolutely unacceptable. And we have to call it out when we see it. We have to speak truth to power. Not one iota of evidence. Even in Georgia, when you have the Secretary of Georgia, who is a Republican who voted for Trump, say that there weren't thousands of dead people voting. And I mean, I don't know what else proof we have to do. We have to speak truth to power. And I think it's really sad that elected officials who know better are continuing to peddle the same lies and conspiracy theories. I hope that the people of Alabama will not believe and continue to believe those lies and conspiracy theories. I hope that they would get informed, that they would that people would stop saying that the election was stolen. The reality is that Joe Biden received 306 electoral votes, actually the same amount that Trump won and beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. And I think that our democracy, which is a beacon of light to so many, is really under assault right now. And we, as Democrats and Republicans, need to put aside political parties and be American patriots and stand up and push back against this attack and assault on our democracy. And I plan to continue to do that.
Are you worried about security in the Capitol on January the 20th?
I am. I'm worried about security right now. I'm in my office right now, and I'm worried about security. There was an epic failure, breach of security on every level that needs to be investigated. And it's clear to me that we were not prepared. The Capitol Police wasn't prepared. I sit on the House Intelligence Committee, and I know that we are calling upon a comprehensive investigation as to why there was such an epic failure of security on so many levels, and trying to make sure that doesn't happen again, and trying to ensure that we are safe for this inauguration as well.
I know you say that this should be investigated, this lack of security should be investigated. How do you feel about the calls when people say, look at the security that was implemented last summer over the Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, in the Capitol, versus the security presence that was there on Wednesday last week, where there had been rumors on social media of protests erupting? What do you think about that comparison?
I think it's a fair comparison, and it's unfortunate that racism is still alive and well in America. And that there's no doubt in my mind that had this been a protest like Black Lives Matter, that there would have been heightened security, that there would have been more preparedness, and that in and of itself saddens me and is a realization of the systemic racism that exists in America. And we have to call it out when we see it, and we have to do better. And so I am, deeply disturbed, but I'm resolved that we have a resilient democracy that can and is always in search of a more perfect union. And we need to put this division and this chapter of American history behind us and unite as Americans to save our democracy. And that's really what's at stake, in my opinion. We are that beacon of light. The United States experiment in democracy is the best example of democracy in the world. And we were under assault on Wednesday. From within, not from foreign enemies, but from within. And people have to account for that. We cannot let it stand. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about this.
Thank you so much, Representative. I know you have a lot going on in Washington you got to get back to. We appreciate your time today, and we hope that we have some good news maybe tonight.
Well, listen, I think that the Tide is going to win and beat Ohio State, and that is a bright spot. But I don't in any way want to undermine or understate the real significance of what happened, the horrific, violent events of last week that happened in our nation's capital, and my sincere desire to make sure that those that were liable for it are fully account for it, and that we as a nation can unite around our newly elected president and vice president. At the end of the day, it's about we the people, and the people's house was under attack, and we should all be offended by it, and more importantly, we should all want transparency and accountability for it.
Thank you, Representative. Everybody, thank you for watching. Representative, please stay safe up there, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.